Hello everyone, welcome to my channel and thank you for tuning in. I hope you are well. In this upload I'm going to talk to you about revision, and I'm going to split the upload into two parts. So today is Sunday 11th October 2020 and part 2 will follow on Wednesday 14th October 2020. So that won't be an episode of Metaphysical Moments on Wednesday. It will be part 2 of this, and there will likely be an exercise portion there as well. So even though I won't be taking you through a new exercise here, I'm confident that you will feel confident to use whatever technique it is that you know about revision after you've listened to this upload. And maybe you're going to address something that you've been thinking about. And in fact, it's possible that this upload serves to remind you that revision is an immensely powerful gift that you possess. To me, in fact, it's the most essential of the gifts bestowed on the human race because of the purpose it serves. And I'm going to talk about that purpose in just a moment. I want to just slot in here. I've got my notes in front of me so that I don't go off on 1,000 tangents, but I want to slot in that those of you familiar with Neville Goddard and those who are completely new to him, or even if there is some other philosopher or philosophy that you follow, you'll find that you have a very personal and intimate relationship with those ideas. And so it's not everything that you rush out and tell people. I certainly don't withhold anything that I feel compelled to share, and I have complete faith and trust and confidence that I am sharing what is meant to be shared. I never hold anything back, but there are certainly things that are sacrosanct, that are so personal and sacred to me that I don't talk about them, certainly not on YouTube or anywhere else. And so, I mean, I'm sure you feel the same, right? So what I do with these uploads is that I just give from my heart, from a place of joy and love and sharing and all the rest of it. So if you feel that you want me to go into further detail, then you're very welcome to submit that in the comment section or use the community section on the channel to make posts there. But I'm going to give you what I feel is appropriate to give to you. So thank you for your understanding on that. Let's get back to what I'm talking about here. So in talking about the gifts that we've received as human beings that enable us to live in this world in the way that we're supposed to, I would say that all of those gifts enable us to operate as consciousness. And they're all vital, but revision is special. It's different because it serves the singular purpose of awakening us as our authenticity. I hope that sentence is as clear to you as it is to me. So revision has a singular purpose. When you think about other techniques of metaphysical prayer, they have multiple applications, right? But revision serves the singular purpose of awakening us as our authenticity, or into our authenticity. And I'm going to read a passage from a lecture by Neville Goddard that sets this out perfectly. I receive a lot of emails from listeners, and many of them are new to the ideas of Neville Goddard. And if you are completely new, what I'm about to share here can be a lot to take in, but I will say that if you approach his teachings in the right way, nothing will be difficult for you. In fact, you're going to find that you are much further ahead than you might expect to be, because in understanding what Neville's message really speaks to, you'll be able to make use of his precursor instructions. And when you're elevated from the status of slave to friend or son, and son has no gender connotation, you in your authentic state, you take over what your human senses, what your human experience has prescribed or is telling you. And you do that as an emanation of consciousness itself. And so in that state, you won't need anybody to guide you. So all I would say to those who are new to these ideas, and to all of us really, is to let your feeling lead you in listening. Don't try to fathom what you're hearing in terms of an interpretation of the English language. Ignore what your reasoning mind is trying to explain to you about what you're hearing, and focus only on whatever unobservable message is being transmitted. So those are the things that you are emoting. Those are the things that you are feeling in response to what you're hearing. Let that be the lead when you're listening to this, when you're reading Neville, when you're in your own moments of contemplation, when you're teaching someone else. Just let your feelings lead. That's the correct approach, because then we are operating as consciousness and communicating with consciousness. So this is probably going to be a slightly longer than usual upload. I felt for a few days now a strong urge to change my presentation now that I found something of a rhythm on YouTube, and I'm consenting to that impression. I've received some ideas about how to speak on this platform going forward, and you're certainly welcome to tell me how it hits you. So I'm just in that flow this morning and just delivering to you, going by what I feel. I always go by what I feel. I have really set aside what my logical mind tries to tell me. So before we go in, I want to do a little housekeeping. As I say, for anyone new to the channel, welcome. Welcome to all of you who support me, all of my subscribers, my regular listeners. You know how much I appreciate you. Certainly, I hope you do, because I try to tell you as often as possible. But for anyone completely new to me, what I do is speak on contemporary esotericism, as I like to call it. So that's foundational knowledge, but put into terms that apply to us in this moment. And then I also speak on practical mysticism, which means that the ideas I share, the ideas that I glean from Neville and my study, my own, what I receive myself directly from consciousness, can be inspected by you physically. So you can put those ideas to the test through the exercises, the experiments that I share with you. And then when we do that, when we inspect an idea physically, we're building for ourselves an evidentiary record. And this, in my view, is the only way to build confidence in ourselves. And obviously, as Neville tells us, esoterically, building confidence in ourselves is building confidence in God. And that's, I think, for me, the more important part of all of this kind of sharing. What I hear from you, what you hear from me, inspires in us confidence in ourselves. And as I say, by extension, confidence in God. My only requirement for anyone who listens to me, whether you're new or not, is that you are open-minded, that you're excited, that you're curious and willing to test any idea robustly. And as Neville Goddard says, even if you intend to disprove what you're hearing, the important thing remains the testing. So I mentioned before a right approach, and what I mean by that is understanding that Neville Goddard was a prophet whose message had the purpose of reconciling God and man, or God and humanity. And once again, none of the gendering nouns or pronouns have any literal gender connotation. So please, if I say man or woman or God, Father, any of that, none of those things have any literal gender connotation. We at source ourselves have no gender actually. We only emanate male or female when we first enter the physical world for the purpose of the work that we're doing. And we emanate male or female perpetually while in the physical world, regardless of the outer human garments we wear. So whether we're wearing a human garment or a female garment throughout the course of our journey, we emanate male or female depending on what happened when we first arrived here. And I know people want to talk about, or want to know about what happens when we recycle, and what Neville says, you are 20 years old and all of that. That's something that I am actually working on right now, because I want to make sure that that information is super clear. That's not what we're talking about today, but that's something that happens. We are here to do the work of God, and we emanate male or female, as I say, regardless of our gender when we get here, but we ourselves have no gender. So I want you to have these ideas in mind. They are pretty exciting to me. For me, what they're saying is that we can make far more of our physical human journey than we're perhaps making at present. What we call manifesting, for example, is teaching us to operate as consciousness. And as Neville himself says, like, yes, I refer to Neville a lot. The things I'm talking to you about today are derived directly from Neville's lectures, so I'm referring to him a lot. And he says that he would prefer it if we focused on the unveiling of the Christ mind in us rather than on the acquisition of things. So even when you're thinking about something like manifesting, as I've just said, think about it in this wider, more expansive concept, or context rather, not just that, okay, I manifested £500, or I manifested a car, or I manifested a new friend in my life. Just think about consciousness in operation, the creator, the expanse of creation itself, things that exist far outside of anything we have experienced as an individual. All of that. Manifesting is a part of that because it's giving us an opportunity to learn how to operate as consciousness in that context. So that's not to say that things aren't important. We still have to eat. We still have to pay Caesar's taxes. We still have to buy clothing. We pay for travel. We pay for our homes. We take care of our children, our families, and so on. And it's crucial that we don't neglect any of those things. They have their own role to play. But manifesting, when we think about manifesting, and I don't know why I'm going on about manifesting, but okay, I'll wrap up on this. This is the process of giving to yourself things that lie outside of the reach of your human physical possibility. As I said, this plays an important part, but manifesting isn't actually, I got £200 from a friend, or I manifested a cup of tea, or I manifested a meeting with someone I needed to talk to. It is actually going beyond that, far beyond that. And I hope that people don't feel put out by that. I have to just speak the truth. I brook no opposition to the truth. I think that the truth is far more valuable. You know, there have been times when I've read Neville and I felt, oh my God, that was so harsh. That was awful. But afterwards, I see the benefit of him speaking in the way that he did and getting straight to the point. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm speaking in a spirit of non-judgment and in complete love. Do understand that. But the truth is far more valuable to us than sort of making ourselves feel good, or bedside manner, as it were. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to have a sort of a nice way of doing things, but sometimes I just need to get down to the nitty-gritty. So manifesting isn't those things that we could ordinarily give ourselves. It's the process of acquiring things that lie outside of what is normally possible for us. So as I said, I'm going to wrap up on that. It's not about manifesting per se. Today, we're talking about revision. So revision, what is it? So to answer that question, I'm going to read a passage from a lecture by Neville. And this is from Awakened Imagination. It's available to read free online. So Neville says, in the ancient text, it was called Jacob. And there are numberless names in the Bible, all leading up and culminating in the grand flower called Christ Jesus. It may startle you to identify the central figure of the Gospels as human imagination, but I'm quite sure before the series is over, and he was talking about the series of 19 lectures that he was delivering, he talks about that in the start of this lecture, so you'll see that when you read this for yourself. But he said, I'm quite sure before the series is over, you will be convinced that this is what the ancients intended that we should know. But man has misread the Gospels as history and biography and cosmology, and so completely has gone asleep to the power within himself. So I'll change it. I'll say that humanity has misread the Gospels and has completely gone asleep, fallen asleep as to the power within themselves. Now this morning, Neville says, I have brought you the means by which this mighty power in us may be awakened. I call it the art of revision. I take my day and I review it in my mind's eye. I start with the first incident in the morning. I go through the day. When I come to any scene in my unfolding day that displeased me, or if it didn't displease me, if it was not as perfect as I thought it could have been, I stop right there and I revise it. I rewrite it. And after I have rewritten it so that it conforms to the ideal I wished I had experienced, then I experience that in my imagination as though I had experienced it in the flesh. So it's very important. The event being revised must take on all of the tones of reality. So Neville says, I do it over and over until it takes on the tone of reality. Oh, right. So Neville does say that. Sorry, I forgot he says that. So Neville says, I do it over and over until it takes on the tone of reality. And he says, experience convinces me that that moment that I have revised and relived will not recede into my past. It will advance into my future to confront me as I have revised it. If I do not revise it, these moments, because they never recede and they always advance, will advance to confront me, perpetuating that strange, unlovely incident. But if I refuse to allow the sun to descend upon my wrath, so that at the end of a day I never accept as final the facts of the day, no matter how factual they are, I never accept them, and revising it, I repeal the day and bring about corresponding changes in my outer world. And for those new to this, Neville does talk about what it means to not let the sun go down on your wrath in that same lecture. So he says a little further on, now, not only will this art of revision accomplish my every objective, but as I begin to revise the day, it fulfills its great purpose, and its great purpose is to awaken in me the being that men call Christ Jesus, that people call Christ Jesus, that I call my wonderful human imagination. And when it awakens, it is the eye of God, and it turns inward into the world of thought. And there I see that what I formerly believed to exist on the outside really exists within myself, no matter what it is. I then discover that the whole of creation is rooted in me and ends in me, as I am rooted in and end in God. And from that moment on, I find my real purpose in life. And my real purpose is simply to do the will of him that sent me. And the will of him that sent me is this, that of all that he has given me, I shall lose nothing, but raise it up again. So there ends the reading of the passage. I just wanted to highlight those points, the purpose of revision and how you do it. So Neville spoke about how he does it. He goes through the entire day. He lands on a scene that he wants to change. He changes it and then continues. But he talked about the fact that the divine purpose, the great purpose of revision is to awaken in us the one called Christ Jesus. In many ways, there isn't much more to be said. The great purpose of revision is not to make things that have happened to us in the past better, but to activate the pattern and start us on the journey homeward. And don't be alarmed by that, the journey homeward. It doesn't mean that life as you know it comes to an end, but that it gets immeasurably better because it loses its hold on you. You see things clearly and you reposition yourself, as the authority. And that reminds me a bit about what it says in Genesis in the Bible about our being given dominion over every mineral thing. We lost that dominion when we fell asleep. So when we revise a situation in the way described above, we are acknowledging that the day we just lived through was not based on physical objective reality, but that it was instead the exclusive product of our operation as consciousness. And although I'm not going into technique here, you can certainly, as I said before, do what Neville suggests in terms of revising the day and the stuff that I read a moment ago. So just to reiterate, the moment of revision, when we sit down to revise, at that moment, we are in that instant immediately acknowledging that we are not living in a physical world, but we're living in a psychological one. And this is what makes it so powerful and why it's possible for us to revise. We can traverse backwards and change some event that dissatisfies us. And we can do that because we are altering the psychological past. We're not attempting to alter the physical past. And we will know if we have been successful because our human track will change and our present lives will be different. If we find that things, after revising, that things are exactly the same, we have not yet revised or relived a past event. So I want to mention here that admitting to ourselves that we have more to do when we try to do something, employ any technique of metaphysical prayer, admitting that we haven't quite hit the mark can be the most liberating thing to do. So if I attempted to revise something and I failed, saying, Catherine, you failed at that. That wasn't it. That instantly creates space for me. I can start from where I am and move forward. I can try again rather than fighting against what I thought I had done and causing panic within myself because I thought I was right about what I was doing. I can't extol the virtues of this highly enough. And this is something you can actually try. If you have been expecting something, remember that everything in the physical world has an emotional, a feeling correlate. So if you're saying, I don't know, I need a new car, and you are manifesting a car, but you don't have the car, the feeling that you have when you think about the car does not correspond to the car. That feeling is something else. It could be fear, anxiety, it could be any number of things, but it is not the car. Acknowledging that that is not the feeling, I still have more to do, gives you the space to move forward. If you think that you did everything right and you didn't get the results you were looking for, you're going to panic. So try that. Don't be hard on yourselves. Just try again. This doesn't do anything to diminish your ability. It just means that you need to try again. There was some part of the process that hadn't been done correctly, but that can be addressed. So to get back to what I'm talking about, we've heard from Neville that revision serves the singular purpose of awakening the Christ mind in us, of changing our status from slave or human outlook to friend. That's to say, consciousness, or as Neville says, fourth dimensional outlook. And this transforms us not into better versions of whatever garment we're presently in, but into trusted, mandated emissaries or agents of infinite creative potential itself, for me, which is God. When it happens that we begin to awaken, the biblical asseveration is that the windows of heaven are opened and innumerable, tongue-tied, innumerable blessings, many blessings are poured out on us. What this means in practical terms is that everything we then need to live comfortably, affluently, or blissfully are given to us without our having to look for them. And so for me, this is the real driving force at this stage of my life. I don't place any attention on trying to get things. Now, I don't do that because it feels quite limiting to me now. Instead, I'm looking to be entrusted with bigger tasks. I want objectives that stretch me, that give me an opportunity to show what the Creator is capable of. And that doesn't mean that I'm looking down on people who are aware of other more tangible needs right now. I don't want to say that my needs are less tangible, but you know what I mean, that people who are aware of the fact that they need income, or they need a vehicle, or they need a partner in life, or they need children, or whatever it might be, a new home. I'm not saying that. We are instructed to put first things first. But even if you are completely new to these ideas, there is no reason for you to start small. And for those of you who've been doing this for a while, but have stayed within your comfort zone, I say tear that comfort zone down and start to stretch yourselves in ways that you have never done before. Obviously not stretch your physical body, stretch your metaphysical muscles in ways you have never tried before. When you are manifesting, you are meant to objectify things that you could never give to yourself under any circumstance. That certainly, by all appearances, you couldn't give to yourself if you wanted to. And that's my view. I'm always open to viewpoints, but I want to stress that the human physical world and objective reality are secondary to the realms of true reality and cause. The human physical world is where consciousness in operation is outpictured. It's given physical expression here. So it follows that the secret to living the life of your dreams, as it were, is predicated upon the quality of your relationship to consciousness itself, your ability to operate as consciousness. Things really only do appear difficult to us when we believe that humanity comes first, that our humanity is in the driving seat. So to summarize, I'll put my teeth back in, to summarize what we've touched on here, revision serves the purpose of awakening the Christ mind in us, the infinite creative potential that we were born as. we then need to enrich our lives with as much experience as we can fit in to give ourselves as many opportunities to exercise this potential as possible. And where it appears as if something cannot be done, that is an opportunity to do just that. In fact, the worse your situation appears to be, the better off you are, because you are blessed with an opportunity to develop your innate skills and gifts in a way that someone born into comfort cannot do. So we take our attention away from what our senses are telling us, and we rest it firmly upon what it is we are being told to be instead. And we get that information from our desires, which Neville calls the invisible gifts of God. Revision is the instant recognition of your psychological reality, which has preeminence over your physical reality. The physical reality is the servant of the psychological reality, and we're instructed to treat our servants well. So we don't neglect our physical reality, but we understand that it is secondary to our psychological reality. And that's what revision, when you sit down to revise, that's what you are admitting to yourself. That's what you are declaring, if you like, in that moment. So you can go back as far as you would like and reanimate any scene that you choose by giving it the tones of reality, as Neville said. You use your subjective senses to do that. Make sure that you are seeing, touching, tasting, hearing, smelling, and all the rest of it. And then while you're in that state, when you've reanimated it, you recraft what's happening around you so that it takes on a new form. Now, this is where it gets a little bit challenging, because you're going to recraft using your feeling. While you are in that state, while you are reliving that psychological reality and you're in control of it, you must use your feeling to direct what you want that old scene to be instead. And you are operating as consciousness while you're doing that. And then remember to stay there until you reach the point of conviction. And once you've reached the point of conviction, you return to the present, ready to exist in the new reality you have given to yourself. So when you're revising something, it's not going to be enough for you to just sort of form pictures in your mind. It's absolutely imperative that you are feeling experientially what the new scene is. When you reach the point of conviction, you return. And as I say, your present has adjusted to align with the new track that you are now on. The awakening part takes care of itself, and it's signaled by a number of events. And I'm going to discuss those events in part 2. But in the meantime, thank you so much for listening to part 1. I've enjoyed what I've shared with you today. Listen to it a couple of times if you need to. Do submit questions in the usual way if you want to, either in the comment section, or if you want to do it a little more privately, you can reach me via my website contact form, and I'll put the link below this video. And if you feel impressed to subscribe to this channel, do respond to that impression. If you want to comment, like, share, please do so. I'm always ready to receive your gifts, and I'm always open to them. And if you're thinking about revising something, let me think. The only thing to be aware of is that you fully reanimate the scene and ensure that you reach the point of conviction. I was just thinking about it. I think, those are the things that I would say have to be the take home when you are revising. Make sure that you fully reanimate the scene. Make sure that you are allowing your feelings to recraft the scene. So you're being led by feeling. You can ask yourself these questions while you are in the state to be revised. How would I feel if? That can help if you're not able to latch onto the feelings you need without doing that. Just use whatever you need to do, but make sure that your feelings are leading the recrafting of the scene. And then, as I say, don't do anything when you come back, just return. Don't take any outward action, unless, of course, that action is enjoying the change that the revision has produced. So have fun, experiment, stretch yourselves, test Neville, test me, test whoever it is. Have a great time with revising now that you possibly have been introduced to new ideas. I know some of you certainly will, because you've told me that this is new to you. Those of you who are familiar, I'm giving you that challenge, and you can challenge me as well. Let's revise. Let's test ourselves in ways we haven't done before. I look forward to being with you in the next upload. Until then, stay phenomenally you.